I didn't know that Rajiv singing Elvis was what I needed this morning, but it's what I needed this morning.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are Irenicast. I'm Jeff.
It's your boy, Alan.
I'm Bonnie.
I'm Casey.
This is Rajiv.
On the first and third Tuesday of every month,
we bring to you our perspectives
on theology and culture
from a post-evangelical lens.
Thank you for joining us for another conversation to provoke your progressive Christian imagination. This week, this is our Christmas episode, annual Christmas episode. We've had fun Christmas episodes in the past. Being a Gen Xer, a child of the 80s, Christmas specials were all the rage. And I have forced and domineered this particular group of people to always have a Christmas episode every year. And we will not continue that until I've been overthrown from my... I guess those aren't good words right now with where we are in our political system. But...
Jeff, if you need a Grinch, I'll be one.
It is our Christmas episode, and we are going to just answer the simple question of what does Christmas mean to you? Not in general, but this year, because this year is different from many other years, and I'm sure that a lot of that stuff has changed and contextualized, and we're going to be talking about that. So we're going to get into Christmas theologies, we're going to get into the incarnation, we're going to get into presents, we're going to get into whatever the hell we want. We also have some news about the future of the podcast. So we're going to have a little state of the podcast address, and then we're going to close out providing everyone with some holiday cheer with our playlist segment. And we're each going to be coming up with 3 songs, our favorite Christmas songs, or Christmas songs that we love right now, because I'm sure our favorites have also changed throughout the years.
I think when we do that list, we should each sing the first line.
I don't know about that.
I would do it, Rajiv.
All right, I'll do it with you.
How about Casey and Rajiv sing the first line of everybody's songs?
Now everybody's just like saying, maybe I'm going to skip this one.
Or there's other that are probably equally like, this will be fun. I'm down, Rajiv. I'll sing with you if you want me to.
So since we're setting parameters for this episode, how long do I have to wait to say ho, ho, ho?
You just did. You got it out of the way.
All right, great guys. I feel ready.
Despite my empirical rant at the beginning, this is actually free form. Anyone can speak whenever. My reign comes in post production, so we'll see. All right, let's get into it. See, festive, already festive. We're bantering, we're hanging out. Let's get into it. What does Christmas mean to you this year?
All right. I'm feeling a little dark, so I'm going to go first, and hopefully others can lighten the mood. But Christmas, it's a weird, Christmas 2020 is just like, holy crap. I mean, we've basically called off the family stuff. We're going to do it via Zoom, presents and all the other things. And, and our present stuff is pretty pared down just to avoid commercialism. And so this whole season, we're in Advent right now and Christmas is coming. I've really been sinking into kind of the pagan roots of everything. And I've also been watching the show American Gods, where it's a show about the old gods who were kind of, that were brought to the United States by immigrants, waves of immigrants, and battling the new gods, really, of commercialism, technology, etc. And it's like, I'm rooting for the old gods, man. I'm like, can we please, at this Christmas time, summon the energy to strike down the evil power mongers who are trying to uproot freedom and democracy, inflict them with boils and plagues and, may their houses crumble. Because it's just like, I'm so angry with them. People that have been entrusted with our public welfare. But, the Christmas story is full of that same kind of thing. There's some real parallels. So I'm sinking into all of that, but the darker side. And, and then Mary's Magnificat, where she's wanting to bring down the powerful. I'm like, you go. Let's make this happen. So for me, yeah, it's sort of like the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. It's the darker side. It's like the Christopher Nolan Christmas for me.
Oh, wow. Minus the white privilege.
It's a suit.
This isn't a film podcast. I won't talk about Christopher Nolan.
It's a superhero movie, Jeff. It's just how it is.
It is. It is.
Rajiv, I was like, the old gods already gave COVID to the evil forces, and he survived. So,
Oh, dang! We're
I'm telling you, it's dark. I'm dark. I hope people can lift us out of it.
You know, frankly, like I've been thinking about this a lot this year, is that some of the things masquerading as God, it feels like in 2020 are kind of horrific. So I'm with you. Whatever friends we can call in to kill the God that's kind of dominating people's lives. Because really, you know, everyone's being told, be productive or die, and don't be productive or die. Like, you know, the public health requires us to not be productive, and the way our economy works and the way we structured life as a society tells us that we're going to die if we're not. And so it just feels pretty actually wonderful to start off this episode with that kind of reading of Christmas. So, you know, that's some Christmas lights on the tree of 2020 for me. Thank you, Rajiv.
I think that one of the things that this year has taught me more than ever is, what does it mean to be in relationship to others, even if you can't always be together, and how the relationships that actually really matter to me, I have found that I've sought them out. You know, like the people that I am most close to are the people that text me and I text them. Or at one point, Bonnie and Rajiv left a little box of tea. Bonnie hand wrote a poem for me. And so now that poem sits in my office, and I am reminded that I'm a part of a tribe, a team of people who love me and who see me. Any of our listeners, I'm sure you can relate to this, especially around this holiday season. You're beginning to really see who your family is, right? And your family isn't necessarily the people that you were the family you were birthed into, right? Your family can be mixed with all sorts of, you know, neighbors and friends and the old cat lady down the street. And I imagine that, as you know, as the story goes, and as Mary and Joseph, I'm not even going to go there, actually, because I don't believe that shit. But the point is to say that it wasn't Mary and Joseph's families who were surrounding baby Jesus. It was shepherds and animals and who knows who else, honey, was there to help Mary deliver that child. Even for a moment, they found themselves in connection, in relationship with this sort of family, this holy family. And so I'm curious to know about your own holy families. Who has helped you wander through the bleakest of nights of COVID? You know, who has rallied around you as you have offered the birth pains of existing during these times? Because those are the people you want to hold on to, quite frankly. So that's where I'm going this morning. I think I have a little more pep in my step than some of you this morning. But I am just sitting in a place of, you know, ultimate gratitude for my family, you know, not just my bio family, but my COVID family, the community, the beloved community that surrounds me. You know, Jose and I just got married. So I got a husband, honey, and to see the outpouring of love from like literally across the country and around the world, to have people just draw close in this holy moment for us has been really moving. So that's what I'm bringing into this Christmas, is a sense of gratitude for the way family gets to look and doesn't have to look. You hear me? So.
Now that we've established our spectrum.
I love it. Yeah. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
Bonnie, how about you? Where's Christmas for you this year?
Yeah, you'd think that would be an easy question. It feels, I think Christmas is in the churning. It feels like the whole world is just churning, on the verge of something. And I think that really is, it's at the core of the Christmas story, is is we're waiting for something, and it is dark and hard. And there are moments of joy and gratitude throughout. And you do have to gather your people around you to be able to get through times like this. But I think Christmas for me is about sitting in the waiting and participating in the world that we want to see, and then hoping that it's coming. That all of this, that what happened in this year, the labor pains of this year, will birth something in the time to come, and that we can all be a part of it. I was looking at a kind of like a year in review in picture. In January, fires in Australia. I mean, it's just like one thing after another. May, we had George Floyd. And then through the summer, protests in the streets. Black Lives Matter. And COVID starting in March or February. And now we're in the worst surge we have ever been in. We're approaching 300,000 people dead since March. I mean, it's all, there's a cloud, but it's a cloud with kinetic energy. Something new is about to happen, and I'm kind of excited to see what it is.
I think, Bonnie, when we talk about, like the journey, going through the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading a book. I'm sure all of you have probably read this. I'm probably late to the game, but Zealot, do you know?
Oh yeah, that's a great book.
Mhm.
That is a great book. And he was just reminding me how violent Herod was.
Oh yeah.
And the oppression that Herod had on the people, right? I think like this also speaks to the violence in our own world. There has been some crazy ass shit that's happened in the last year. And it hasn't just been violent to people's bodies, but to our souls. I mean, honestly, the anxiety of watching the news every night because you are unsure of what emotional energy it's going to take for you to have to, sit there. I mean, that's violence, right? What I grab from this story is that even when violence and hate seek to smash out hope or smash out or destroy possibility, it still arises.
Mm-hmm.
Life still happens in this small manger or whatever, right? You can tell how I feel about the birth narrative. But I think the bigger metaphor, the bigger story is that you can call a census, you can seek to kill every last son, but life will still happen. Because love has a way of finding itself manifest, honey.
Yeah. And I think we need birth narratives. I wish we had more of them in the Bible, actually.
I'm interested now that this has been brought up. So I feel like there's some tension when it comes to birth narratives, because Casey, clearly there's an issue there for you when it comes to the birth either narrative.
Well, now I want to ask Bonnie why. I mean, I'm all about more birth narratives. If you think it's cool, Bonnie.
I think because every great mythology needs them. Like you can't have, I think it's pretty impossible to have full grown, fully formed ideas just sort of plopped into the world. There has to be an evolution process. And I think that birth narratives bring attention to women and children. And I think that that's grossly missing in so many of our stories. Nobody comes from nowhere. There's a beginning, which is emergent from whatever was before. And I think we should pay attention to that.
As painful and complicated and weird as it is, or wonderful, that we all come from someone. We're sharing what Christmas means to us. This is actually, when I thought ahead of time about this episode for my offering of what I'm thinking through for Christmas, unsurprisingly is coming from a biblical studies perspective. But it's about the birth narrative, actually. Is the only thing that I want to say in this episode at all. To me, what feels profound when I hear the question, like, what do you feel about Christmas and what does Christmas mean to you this year? What I think of is my family sitting at the Christmas tree, reading the story and highlighting different elements of the story. And every Christmas, there's like different elements highlighted, I guess. And when I like searched my mind and my soul for what it meant this year to me, things feel very different than any other moment in my life. And I kind of approach it from like a literary perspective and maybe even a humanistic perspective. I wrote some stuff years ago about it's my opinion as someone who studied Greek and looked at the different manuscripts available, that there was no in the story, like that is a complete fabrication. The word that gets translated in is kataluma, and that is, or kataluma, and that is the only other time it shows up in Luke is upper room. It either means guest room, upper room, or, you know, like a public house, an inn or something. And to me, there's like bookends to the Gospel of Luke. You have the baby born, maybe with family, because, you know, returning to the place of family ancestry, anticipating the birth, going there maybe a little bit early because they know that, you know, Jesus is going to be born. But there's probably so many people crowded in the houses because the census is happening in the family houses, that there's no room in the upper room, the guest room, the most comfortable room in the house for this baby to be born. And so he's born in the first floor where the animals are brought in during the winter to keep the house warm. And so there's this beautiful picture of no room in the upper room to this miraculous upper room experience at the end of Jesus's life, where there is this inclusion and there is space in the upper room, not just for him, but for all his disciples. You know, one's a zealot, one's a tax collector, a bunch of them are fishermen, random people, and Jesus himself being included in the upper room. And so when I hear Casey talking about like chosen family and like that being the part of Christmas that means the most to him, to me, that literary device is exactly that. It's inclusion. It's like there is a place at the table for all the people who are left out, all the people who are not emperors, all the people who don't have money, all the people who are forgotten, that there is literally a table. So like the story of the gospel is not even a story of Jesus. It's the story of the table itself. It's kind of funny, but, you know, evangelicals will, at least in my past, in a lot of art and film, they'll say the wood that made the manger became the wood of the cross. You know, like Jesus's entire life is, there was a song. I know Casey knows it because for some reason we share a lot of the same worship songs, like back in the day. There was a song that goes, he lived to die, rejected and alone, like a rose, trampled on the ground, right? And like, he lived to die. Instead of thinking of the wood of the manger as the wood of the cross, like this year, I'm thinking of the wood of the manger as being like the wood of the upper room table. And then that's the whole interpretation of Jesus's life, is that there is this table set and everyone is, and that's like the story of Israel too. They would feast with God and a lot of people, I guess I missed that a lot growing up, but there's this sense that the elders of the tribes would feast with God on the mountain. And so, yeah, I'm reading Christmas as the story of those who, to all appearances, don't have a place at the table, in fact, being the ones who are making it and being the ones who prove to everyone that there is a spot for them too. Even enemies, right? Judas was there too in the upper room. But that's my literary take for this year.
Bringing in some literary criticism into the conversation. I like it. I'm still curious though, Casey. I know that you've been converted now that Bonnie said that birth narratives are good, but I'm just thinking, you know, BB before Bonnie, what was the tinge that you had, or the reason for the tinge that you had in terms of birth narratives before that? Because I'm sure there's some people that are going to resonate with whatever that objection might be.
Well, I mean, there's a lot, right? The bag is big, honey. But I think I mean, I don't have a problem with birth narratives. I actually agree with Bonnie in terms of why we should elevate them, because mythology needs sort of a grounding place. And a lot of times in talking around birth narratives, you are lifting up women and children. Like, I get that. Like Sojourner Truth once said, where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Men had nothing to do with it. Right. So yeah, like I'm down with that. But for me, it's like how much emphasis we put on it being an actual truth or an actual fact and it's been language to suppress people's bodies, right? That Mary was a virgin. I mean, there's all these other things that, because we use scripture in a way that says it had to happen exactly like this. It was actually a real thing, that it loses all of its real power. When you take myth and you try to force it into fact, it loses all of its like oomph, all of the power. And that's why I love sitting with all of you and having this conversation, because it makes the story more true. It makes it more beautiful hearing Bonnie remind me of why birth narratives are so important. It centers Mary. It centers, as Alan was saying, the disciples even later in the story, to imagine what it would mean for, the manger to then be the table. That's a beautiful image. But we don't get those images if we spend all of our time focused on this being something that actually happened. And so that's what that turns me off, Jeff, is that sense of this had to have happened. Mary was definitely a virgin. I super hope she wasn't. I have a whole tangent about that too, but go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just going to say, and this is from my biblical studies understanding, that the word translated virgin really has nothing to do with Mary's sexuality. It really has to do with the fact that she was not yet attached to a household, a male household, a patriarchal household. So when Mary became Jesus's mother, or was approached with the question of becoming Jesus's mother, she was not attached, or she was not within a household. She was a virgin. So virgin, the content of the word virgin could even be reclaimed in a way that could be liberating. It's just patriarchy has its way of constantly overlaying these like liberative theological constructs with their own agenda, and it destroys women and children and anybody who doesn't fit a particular social norm. So yeah, I'm with you. I just think, we've got to elevate this stuff out of the muck.
Well, and I agree with you, Casey. Literalism is a problem, so I'm not in favor of that at all. I think the pain that has been caused by taking the idea of Mary's virginality into purity culture is also very toxic and harmful. But if we agree that this is a mythological story, I think the virgin narrative becomes particularly important, and I love it, because what it then does is it places Mary and God as co-conspirators to undermine all patriarchal and male-dominant institutions. It removes male involvement entirely. And I think there's some real power there.
It gives me chills because you think about the Roman structure of Roman the cult religion was that the patriarch was the representative of God, and the emperor was the ultimate patriarch. So this kind of reversal of that during that moment, that's cool. Some of the muck that you have to liberate it from, though, I think for a lot of us to get there, it's original sin. Did any of you ever hear that theory? She had to be a virgin because if, she and Joseph had Jesus, then original sin would have been passed on to Jesus and Jesus was sinless. That's what I was taught as a, neo-Calvinist. And so I hear you, Casey, some of that baggage needs to be jettisoned. And it's not a small thing. Jesus' birth was reinforcement for me that I was born deserving hell, that I was born and essentially evil. And that kind of like programming is like lately, I don't know, it's so incredibly abusive to me to tell people that the act of your birth itself earned you eternal conscious torment from a deity is like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. You know what I mean? Like it's horrible. It teaches people that they are essentially evil. The Christmas narrative with Mary being a virgin just reinforced that. So yeah, turning it into a literal thing, it gets co-opted by a lot of different forces probably.
Jeff, what about you?
I mean, Alan, that's kind of like a perfect jumping off point for kind of where I'm at with Christmas. I feel like I come full circle. So I didn't grow up going to church. I didn't start going to church or have any sort of like Christian upbringing until, like right at junior high. So I grew up on Christmas movies. I grew up on the secular presentation of Christmas, and I loved it. I watched my Christmas movies. I looked forward to coming down and all the sentimental Hallmark stuff of this is a time for people to show their humanity and goodness and kindness and all that stuff was there for me. And I think the reason, as I was going through evangelicalism and then even as a minister within it, I was always uncomfortable around Christmas because of that very thing that you pinpoint, Alan, is that it's the opposite. Like Christmas became a time to highlight how horrible you are because everything always had to go to the cross. Even around Easter time, it wasn't about resurrection. It was more about the cross. Like it was always about the sin and the death and all that kind of stuff. And it was always brought in for me, at least in my upbringing, during Christmas as well. So it always felt conflicting. And I guess I never had words for it till later. And then even moving into more church mainline stuff. I guess I'm just tired of Jesus for Christmas. Like if I'm like just being honest and putting it into plain words. And now that I have two children that are at the height of that magical Christmas age, and that's why I think we framed the question this year, right? This year, my kids are 7. Like Christmas is magical. Christmas is everything that I liked when I was a kid. So like, and especially after 2020, I just want to see a cheesy representation of someone being super kind to someone, just being nice, putting on their mask and going into a store and just, tra-la-lalling down the aisle, grabbing their smaller turkey because they're just, with their family or whatever, like all that stuff. And not even necessarily that it's connected to family, but like to me, that this year, that's what I want Christmas to be. I want my daughters to know that kindness still exists and that it's an important trait. And I want it to be shocking to them when meanness happens. Like we watch some old Christmas movies. Like one thing, my wife and I were having a conversation just yesterday about some older Christmas movies and how mean people are. You watch the old Rudolph thing and how mean people are to each other, and how for us, we didn't even think about it twice, but how striking it is for our daughters to hear someone say that. And immediately they say, that's mean. Why would they say that? And then that kind of giving me a little bit of like, oh, we're doing something right with them. Like they're able to pinpoint this and grab it out and know how we treat people. And I don't know. I feel like that's just what I want. That's what Christmas is going to mean to me. I'm exhausted theologically for like trying to come up with another theological reason and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that's not important and that's not going to be a drive for me in the future, but right now, I just want to be nice. I just want moments. I want Hallmark moments, as cheesy and as stupid and as much as I've hated them in the past. Like that's just what I want right now. And I feel like there's too much weight connected to whatever theology we have. And my shoulders are tired and I'm tired of carrying weight. And I'm not saying that I want to adopt that as like a way moving forward, because I know that there needs to be some weight and there are things that are happening in this world and we have a lot of work to do just because, we have a president that more represents where we are and we feel like we've moved a little bit forward. There's still so much work and I don't want to become complacent, but I do want to rest. I do want to enjoy, and I do want to to have fun. And I think I'm just going to do that this year, and screw it. And then I'll 2021 I'll look at the the wreckage and see where we are from there.
I wonder where that comes from, because I know I kind of hear what you're talking about, that burden of proving everything theologically. It's almost like you have to have a theological justification for being loving or kind, or like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's this like huge mental burden to have to theologize everything and find some sort of grounding for it. I don't know if that's
right. I wonder if it's just a different, like we have a yardstick for everything, right? Whatever that is, whether
I got a
our religion or our upbringing. I'm not sure how to take that, Casey. But we always have to compare something. We always have to have some standard above us that, and I don't know. I guess and again, my anti-authority Gen X stereotypical part of me, I know that that's there, but at the same time, it's like we're always looking to authority to be better than us, or to be this, or to be that, and I think it's an excuse for us to, I don't know. I don't want to get too into it because I don't have thoughts that are formed for it.
So I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, it's this really huge, like, everything is about orthodoxy and not, I know that's like, this is a ridiculous conversation, I think, on some level that we used to have like 10 years ago. Orthodoxy versus orthopraxy. Like, what you're talking about is like, I just want to be a loving person and kind and compassionate and connected. And like, we put all this weight on, hey, you have to do all these like mental gymnastics to get to a place where your life is then going to, mirror these most important things. And lately, for the last 6 months, I felt like Christianity, at least in my experience in America, has put the cart like in front of the horse. It's all about this like niche theological argumentation, or you go to church and that's what it's all about. And as cheesy as it sounds, like the whole like love is the answer, like that kind of stuff. That's actually probably the main shit. Sorry, excuse me. That's twice I said shit in one episode, but like that might be the main stuff. And the theological grounding is the the cart that belongs behind the horse. And that's almost an embarrassment, I guess, like mentally for people like me. Like, it's supposed to be this logical construct and something that like you understand, and this like kind of enlightenment, and really enlightenment is the other way around. It's this like experience, like bodily experience that you experience with other people. I don't know what I'm getting at, if that makes sense at all, but it's this shift, at least for me personally. And so when I hear you talking, Jeff, it's like, yeah, I feel that.
Right. Like, I had a moment yesterday. I had to go to the store and get something, trying to avoid it as much as possible. When I go to the store, it's like early in the morning when there's no one there. But there's this, like, I get so irritated, and I feel like a little, nervous when I go out. And I recently moved, and I'm in a larger area than I'm used to. And ordinarily I thrive in that kind of environment, but because of the pandemic, I'm a little more nervous about that. And it was just this simple moment, because most people, like, they'll get in line behind you and they'll just like get right behind you. I'm like, come on. Like, just stop. But it was like last night I was in line and there was this woman behind me, and she was on her phone. So she came up really close to me, and I was starting to get like nervous, and I saw from the corner of my eye, she looked up and she's like, oh, realized she was too far away, and then backed up a few steps. Not because I gave her any kind of cue or a look or anything, just because that was motivated in her. And it was like the best Christmas moment I could have had. Just a subtle little thing of like, oh, wow, I recognize that I'm kind of, I'm aware of what's going on, and I'm also aware of the person in front of me. And I think that when we have these large theological arguments, we get so lost in the argument and the theory and the biblical studies and this person said that we forget to also then contextualize it with those small moments in the grocery line. And when those two things come together, I mean, I feel like that's what we're about here in this show, and the work that we all do and want to see is that how do we balance those two things, and how do we see ourselves in the bigger picture, but then also see ourselves in that moment.
I really like that, Jeff. I think you're absolutely right. I think the thing that's cool about the Christmas story is that it's about birthing something new. So yeah, why not? Why not leave behind all of those logical, theological constructs? Just let them die, let them be something of the past, and bring into the world something completely different, something that's like actually loving. If we answered the question, what does love look like in the world? And we actually leaned into that and lived into it, and every theological conversation was around promoting that idea, we might get somewhere.
Like relentlessly bring it back to that. Like unashamedly, and even hold God to account in that respect. I don't know. We keep the way we envision God often leaves like actual love out of the equation. Well, it's God's ways are higher than my ways, so it looks like this is a monstrous thing to think about God, but there's some justification out there, and it's like, no, like if Jesus and love is the self-revelation of God, then hold all of what we think about that to that fire rather than the other way around.
I think our survival depends on it, frankly.
And as you ponder all these things in your heart, right? I wonder what your own Magnificat might be. What is your love song? What is it that you will declare as you try to birth love and kindness into existence in your own life? Like spend some time in this Christmas time to write down your own Magnificat, your own declaration of liberation. How do you want to bring forth love and life into the world? How do you encourage that in your own beloved children or in your own families, whether they be of your blood family or your chosen family? You get the opportunity in this holiday season to begin to reimagine, and I would encourage you to do it for sure. I mean, if anything, that's what 2020 for many of us has been. It has been a turning in, a reflecting, a noticing of ourselves and our patterns and behaviors. And for many of us, it's been hugely transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that as coronavirus is shifting, right, as whatever, there's rumor that we might someday have a vaccine sooner than later, blah, blah, blah. Don't miss the opportunity to spend some time, whether blogging online or writing in a notebook, or I would encourage you to just write down some stuff that you've learned and how you've grown and how your heart and life have been transformed in these times. Write a Magnificat, honey. Do it. Share them with me. I want to hear them.
And if part of that is like the power structures falling, Rajiv wants to hear that too.
Right. Well, and I think that we made a little bit light of it, like how Rajiv started this conversation, but it's such an important one, right? Because we can't have all these things that we're talking about, kindness, and without an accurate look at the world and the reality that we live in and how those things exist and why it's difficult for some and while it's not even a thought for others. And, it's just how we have to do that. We have to have those conversations, and it's easy. I know I made it sound a little bit in my little part of this conversation that, I just want to ignore it, but I also wanted to highlight in the midst of that for a time, for a day, for moments, because I know that just it's easy for some people to just, whatever. Those things aren't real. I'm just going to move along my life. My life's going to be fine. Everything's going to kind of get back to normal. This is the flow of things. Well, screw you if you believe that and that's how you live your life, because you're missing all the people in the wake of that do and are affected by these real things that are happening right now. And quite frankly, what's happening now, people are dying, right? Like some stupid thing that the president says leads to real death, real devastation in families, real, like taking away that opportunity to even ignore something. And I think that we balance those all the time. And,
I hear the rhetoric a lot about, the left are people not being tolerant enough or whatever. That dumb little circular, like, you're not tolerant of what I'm doing. You need to be more tolerant of injustice. I can almost hear someone telling Mary, like, damn, your Christmas song is horrible. Like, you came to Christmas with a terrible, like, offering. I could see some family pushing back against that, you know? And the truth is, community, I'm thinking, like, community making, if that's what Christmas is about, like, it's going to be oppositional to some degree just by the nature of what it is. Not that we're going out of our way to tear something down necessarily, but if we're going to do community in the way that love is, like, really practical, it's going to be oppositional because it will take up the same space as empire. And man, if I think the one thing most of us can agree is that something has to change for us. We can't have bread lines with millions of people while we have billionaires, right? Like, that's just, there's something fundamentally breaking, I think, in our community. And so our formation of a mutual communal life is going to be read by a lot of people as oppositional because it stakes out the same sort of space. That's what's coming to mind when I'm listening to everyone sharing.
I want to say something, but Bonnie, it looked like you were going to say something, and I want to hold the space.
I was actually going to call Rajiv out because he's been quiet.
Uh-huh.
No, I mean, yeah, all of this stuff is good, and you know, to bring a little more darkness into the conversation, you know, 2020, Christmas 2020, the nearly 300,000, or actually more than 300,000 families that will have lost somebody to COVID, to all the families who have lost somebody to police brutality and police violence, to those people who had been previously incarcerated for simple crimes of selling or using marijuana, when now it's becoming a booming industry in the country. I mean, the list of grievances is long. And, you know, I love Christmas. I enjoy Christmas, but I think putting that together, and, you know, the fact that the memes around eat the rich are becoming a normal thing is letting us know there's a real problem. I mean, the Trumpy unrest, the eat the rich unrest, we're nearing a tipping point. And once the tipping point happens, if we actually get there, it will change everything. I'm still uncertain on whether we're going to make it just over that tipping point, but I don't know. Maybe it's inevitable, but it has me in 2020 feeling this way.
The way the world is turning right now, the way that the way that there are these forces, these oppositional forces that are building tension with one another, to me feels really hopeful and exciting. And I know that may not sound like a Christmas miracle, and it may not be the way, you know, people may not want to situate what Christmas is in that churning tension. But to me, that's where it's at. Like, you can't bring down forces that have run the day for centuries without fight, without tension, without a sort of, like the Magnificat says, without scattering the proud and sending the rich away empty while filling the hungry. So Mary singing that song over Jesus, who's not even born yet, is her saying, there's something coming that's going to be better than anything you've ever seen, but it's not going to be better for everybody. It's going to be better for the people who have been waiting for it.
And so there are people singing it right now, and it's important to listen to them, to weep, and to get excited, and to let that be the Christmas song.
And to each of us think, like, where are we? You know, am I one that needs to be scattered? Or am I one of those ones who is working to elevate all of us? So I think this is the time to question that. And the pandemic has taught us light and darkness can coexist. And they will always need to coexist. Like, you don't have to have a Hallmark moment and then shelve the other stuff. And, like there's a dance that we have to do between the light and the dark. And the more we figure out how to integrate that into ourselves, into our beings, the more whole, fully human I think we become. So Christmas is about being human.
That was way more hopeful than I expected to walk away with. That. That's beautiful. I know.
Let's be human together, full of love and light,
right,
and caring.
We're all going to read your Magnificats,
Yes.
to listeners, if you send them in.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Casey,
Great.
So let us know what you think. Send those in to us. You can find information on how to contact us in the show notes, and you can add your voice to this particular conversation. And you can find that at Irenicast.com. And again, you'll find all the relevant links and a complete list of other ways to like and follow the show. That's at Irenicast.com. So on the other side of this portion of the music, we are going to have a small, just state of the podcast address, and then we're going to finish out with a playlist. So stay tuned with us because we got some news coming up. All right, so like we mentioned at the top of the show, and just on the other side of this music, we have some announcements, I guess. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but the world has changed. Obviously, we are in unprecedented, and that's a cliche at this point, but we are in a unique experience in our world today, and we also, all of us individually, have had a lot of change and transition in our life over the past few months in the midst of this, global change that we're seeing. And
like moves and career changes and all kinds of stuff for our team.
Right, exactly. And we are not, we are a team, the five of us, but we're not like a team in the sense that you hear on other podcasts where like we're all making these salaries. We're not NPR here where we have a sound engineer and stuff like that. We are all, we're all working our regular jobs, churches, all that kind of stuff. And then in the in-between time, putting this work together, which we are all very passionate about and committed to. And we want the work that we put out to be meaningful, because the easiest thing for us in the world would be just to come together, turn on the mic and just talk and see where it takes us. And that's obviously the feeling that we put forth, because we do want our things to be conversations, our content to be conversations, but we do put a lot of thought and effort into the topics we come up with and the work that we do in connection to these topics. And because of that, and because of the landscape of the world around us, we want to regroup and really look at what we're doing and where we sit in this space, particularly within the progressive Christian space. And that's going to take some time that we all wish we could just take. And that, we had this anonymous donor that was coming in and giving us everything so that we could just concentrate on this work, but that's just not our reality. So this will be the final episode for a while, not the final. Maybe I shouldn't even use the word final, but this will be, it is obviously our last episode of 2020, but we're going to be taking for the first part of 2021, a short break for a few months to really not shift focus, but concentrate our focus to be more purposeful and intentional with the stuff that we're going to be putting out.
I think that anytime you're putting this much work and energy into something, it's good for you to take a step back and to reevaluate where you are for the next part of the journey, right? So we're just doing what I would hope any person would do when they have had such a crazy year. They would take a deep breath, notice what they've been through, and then take some time to regroup. It's important.
We didn't have some breakfast together. COVID stole in-person breakfast for the Irenicast crew. That's one of the tragedies to add to 2020. So I'm definitely looking forward to some of those.
Right. I mean, you say that, Alan, but a lot of the fuel of what we do here has been we get together quarterly because we're all in different areas, and we haven't met in person all together since last January. January of this year. And I think that maybe that's an unsaid thing that's kind of given us that need to kind of regroup, because hopefully you can tell from the conversations, our our knowledge and expertise and experience is an important part, but the core of what we do is the relationship that the five of us share together. That, at least for me personally,
at this table, in this
table,
upper room,
at this manger,
who's Judas?
For me personally, meeting this group of people has made it harder for me to let go of the idea of miracles.
Yeah.
So it's just where we're at. We love the work, we love each other, and we want to make sure that we're moving forward. So that's not to say we're going dark, right? So we're not going to totally, shut off the airwaves. So please follow us on Facebook. And we're also getting ready to do some emails. So please sign up for our email list. Starting in January, we're going to be sending out regular emails to update you on some of the stuff that's coming, because we've already talked a little bit about what we're going to be doing, and it's exciting. Like the work that we're doing connected to the show, I want to instill some sort of anticipation or excitement, because we have a lot going on that we really want to bring out in the right way. So stay connected to us on Facebook. That's our primary social media platform. We know not everyone's comfortable with that, but we do have other ones as well. And sign up to our email list. And in the meantime, we have other stuff going on. We've mentioned it before, but Bonnie and Rajiv have a once a month podcast called Haystacks. And if you are interested in or know someone who's had an experience or a history in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, I know I personally am enjoying every month when their episode comes out. I'm learning another nuance of evangelicalism that I wasn't exposed to before, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So you could check that out. There's a link in the show notes. I know recently, do you guys want to just speak to that real quick?
Sure. We just did an episode on homosexuality and Adventism, and we use the term homosexuality because that's how it's phrased in the SDA world. And, we just go after it, talk about some of the hideous attitudes and where the anti stances come from, and take them to task.
Hearing Jeff talk about listening, I feel like I want to get a well-rounded understanding of evangelicalism. And even if I'm not Seventh-day Adventist, maybe it's important to hear some of those experiences from other, weird cousins in the family. Not that the Seventh-day Adventists are the weird cousins. I'm the weird cousin. I know that.
We're all the weird cousins.
I mean, we're all the weird cousins. Yeah.
Pentecostal's the weird cousin. I'm sorry. I'm going to take that one.
Just get contextualized, it can help.
I was just going to say, yeah, the Haystacks podcast has been really fun it's been fun to go back psychically into the world from which we were born, and spend some time really thinking about, how did our formation impact us, and what have we learned coming out of it. So, and people have reached out to us, which we've been so delighted to hear from folks who are Seventh-day Adventists, but they're fringe or they're former, and they haven't really had a chance to process their leaving experience. So, yeah. And I know we're just, there's 5 of us, and we're just 2 of the 5. And I know there's a lot, like you all have stuff going on too.
Right. And speaking of which, I know that Casey is, and just to be clear, no, we're not going solo here. Like, this isn't like the band breaking up. We will be back as Irenicast. This is an extension of what we're already doing. And both of these podcasts that we're talking about, they're once a month to really reach some of the specific communities that are represented within all of the Irenicast listeners, and hopefully to expand from there. And I know Casey and I have talked, but this is really just birthed out of what Casey is doing in his work and just who he is, but getting ready to start a podcast himself once a month. Casey, tell us a little bit about that. Give us a preview. Tease us a little bit, Casey.
Sure, yeah, of course. So the podcast will be called the Queerly Faithful Podcast. And my invitation I hear from many of our listeners and others that they just want a space to talk about what does it mean to be both queer and faithful. And so my hope is to sort of take on some of those questions. I have a website, The Queerly Faithful Pastor. So I just sort of named the podcast, The Queerly Faithful Podcast. And my hope is to once a month gather with queerly faithful colleagues and to tackle some of those questions around all sorts of things: sex, monogamy, the Bible, all of it. but really, what does it mean to be queerly faithful? And so I'm super excited to do that. I know as I'm preparing and starting to think about and imagine what it could look like, it's been really life-giving for me. So if any of you have suggestions for things you'd like to hear me talk about, please shoot me an email or send me a message on Facebook or one of my socials.
And I have had 2 episodes of Divine Cinema recorded for like 2 years now, and we just life changes and everything like that. And I really hope to bring that back again once a month with my fellow co-hosts Dylan and Adam. And we'll definitely put out those 2 extra ones that we've already recorded. And and if you're not familiar with Divine Cinema, it was kind of birthed out of the last break that we've took from this particular show, and where we explore films with themes of faith. So some of them are like really bad Christian films, and others are just, solid films that have a central focus of some sort of faith. So we're going to get that off the ground again. And the best way to keep informed about all these changes as we bring things out is to join the email list. We really are going to bolster that to give everyone opportunities to let them know, because outside of just like the podcast, we're getting ready to do courses. Like, we want to do more to provide for the space for those of you that, you're looking to expand your religious community or education, or I don't even know the best words for that. And that's what we're trying to figure out too. How do we best communicate all this stuff in the midst of everything? So stay tuned. We're not going away. This show is just taking a short hiatus so that we can better meet the needs of those of you that are listening and our future listeners as we move forward. So any last thoughts? Any final, we don't want to say goodbyes, but see you laters from everyone before we finish out this final episode of 2020 with our playlist segment?
Goodbye, 2020. I love you all. I know we're not supposed to be saying goodbye, but I'm okay with saying goodbye to 2020. And it's been it's been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun and a lot of important conversations this year. And so I feel really grateful to have been a part of them. Looking forward to next year.
Absolutely. All right. Well, then don't forget to sign up for that email list. Go to our website, check the show notes, keep in touch. That's going to be the best way to do it. And if you would like, you can always donate to the show via our PayPal link, which is also in the show notes, or irenicast.com/PayPal. We do have a way for you to donate to the show and continue the work that we have planned going forward. And we are a nonprofit, which we will be getting into as well as we go through and make some of the changes that we're going to be doing. So your donations are tax deductible. So let's finish out this episode on the other side of this portion of the music. And we are going to leave you all with some holiday cheer, some of our favorite Christmas songs this year. And we will put this playlist on Spotify like we have for all of our playlist segments. So see you on the other side of the music. Right. Let's finish out this supersized episode. Let's finish out this episode with a little Christmas cheer. So what we're going to do, this isn't necessarily top 3. This is just 3 Christmas songs that we love right now. And we're going to, put all this together into a playlist like we have before. I think we've done Protest and Anger are the other segments. So this will be a nice one. There's a link in the show notes for the other playlists. They are located on Spotify. We just found that that's the easiest place to do that. So this will be no different. So I'm just going to go with my screen. So Casey, I'm starting you. You're in the top left. Go ahead.
Rajiv, are we singing?
I'm singing.
Okay, here we go. All I want for Christmas is you. Mariah Carey, right?
Had to be that one. Mariah Carey.
Good.
All right. So All I Want for Christmas, Mariah Carey. That's got to be on the list, right? I think that's the last modern Christmas classic, right? We haven't had one since then that has endured the way that song has. That was late 90s, right? I think. All right, Rajiv, you're up next.
All right.
What's your first song?
Little preface, I went with Cheesy-licious as the theme for my Christmas list.
Cheesy-licious.
Cheesy-licious. All right. And also wanting to make it difficult for Jeff to add these to the podcast list, to the playlist.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
So I'm clearing my throat. So my first one is, I'll have a blue Christmas without you.
Not Elvis, right? A different.
Oh, the Elvis version.
Oh.
Absolutely, the Elvis version.
All right.
I turn it up when that song
You
comes
know,
on the
I
radio.
didn't know that Rajiv singing Elvis was what I needed this morning, but it's what I needed this morning.
All right, Alan, your first entry into the playlist.
I really like O Tannenbaum, which like O Christmas Tree, but the instrumental version on the Charlie Brown Christmas soundtrack. I can listen to the whole Charlie Brown Christmas soundtrack instrumental. I think it's the Vince, I don't know how to say, Guaraldi trio.
Guaraldi, yeah.
Yeah, Guaraldi. Beautiful music.
They're great.
There's no singing in that song because it's instrumental, but I could sing for you. Oh Tannenbaum, I don't know the German words to this song. There you go.
All right.
Yeah, I love that song.
Like it. Bonnie, number 3.
I like Oh Holy Night. That always gives me chills every time I hear it. It can be any really good vocalist singing Oh Holy Night.
Yeah. It's a good
and
one.
I'm not going to sing.
There's
somebody else is, jump in if you'd like to.
You prefaced it with good vocalists, so
I know. So we're all like,
I'm out.
Everyone just takes a drink of their coffee. All right.
There you go. Oh, Holy Night. That's a good one. Did you ever remember that? There's a song, the audio version of it that was going around with this really bad singer for a while. And anyone ever hear that?
That sounds very
really
awful.
awful.
That would be terrible.
Yeah. All right. Oh, Holy Night. That's a classic. I mean, you have to have a good vocalist to really
make those stars shine brightly.
Right. My first one is an instrumental. So it goes, da, na, 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 na,
Home Alone or whatever.
Yes, Home Alone. And the reason I picked that is that there's this a metal band, August Burns Red, that every Christmas they do a Christmas song. This year they actually did All I Want for Christmas was their one for this year. But my favorite one that they've ever done is they do this metal instrumental of the Home Alone theme. And it's the first thing I listen to every Christmas. I mean, I like the movie. I resonate more Christmas movies than I do songs, but for some reason, this song, the way that they put their guitars together and everything like that, I love it. It's at the top of my Christmas list. It has been for like the last 3 years since it came out. So that's my entry, and my first entry into this. So Casey, back around to you.
I'm dreaming of a white
nice
Christmas. Yeah.
Which version?
There we go.
The Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby. Yeah.
Just like the ones
You're channeling him. I can hear him.
Yeah,
I can hear him.
I'm telling you. Yeah. This is going to sound so terrible in the recording, and I'm going to hate listening to it. But anyway, that's mine, Bing Crosby.
Like this is going to be a good variety. Get people into the holiday season. I'm enjoying it. Rajiv, back to you.
I want a hippopotamus for Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
By Gayla Peavy. I love that stupid song. Absolutely love it.
Oh man.
And I would like Jeff to record his face as he's adding my songs to the playlist.
I'm well familiar with this one. Last year, my daughters were obsessed with this song. So I listened to it a billion times. So I might get some flashbacks when I'm putting it on the list, but it's a good one. It's solid. It needs to be in there. Alan.
For this one, I think some people call it the Christmas song, but that's not what I call it. But it's so quintessential that it has earned that moniker. And it's Nat King Cole singing "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose." Yeah, chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And someday I have a list of experiences that I would like to have at some point in my life, and roasting chestnuts is one of those. So I will realize that Christmas dream. That'll be my small part of my Magnificat, is roasting some chestnuts. Right. Stop smiling.
We had
that
a P.O. box.
I wasn't even.
Oh, okay.
We'll try to get a P.O. box, and everyone, you can send your nuts to Alan.
Okay,
and,
that's great.
That is great.
Oh, man.
That was good.
All right, that's a good one. All right, Bonnie, back to you.
I really like the song "O Come, Emmanuel." I like the like haunting quality to it, and how it really does feel like something is coming. And the Civil Wars has a really great version of that song.
Ooh.
So
nice. My next one is I'll sing it. I don't want to be a party pooper, but I don't even know if anyone knows it, but every year this song gets me. So it's
Christmas shoes. No, just kidding.
No. Oh my gosh. I love it was the Patton Oswalt comedy sketch or comedy segment from one of his stand up where he talks about
really?
Christmas shoes.
Oh, that song is
Look
rough.
up Patton Oswalt Christmas shoes. It is the best thing in the world.
Okay.
You'll love it. And I'll put it in the show notes as well. All right, so mine is I don't care what the neighbors say. Christmas time is near.
I don't care what your mama says.
Yeah. It's this old SNL sketch that is this great I wish it was Christmas today. And I love this song. I love the original sketch, but you can't get it audio anywhere. But Cheap Trick does a cover of this particular song. And I love it. It's just fun. It captures all the things that I was talking about earlier in our conversation and kind of where I'm at this year and what I want from Christmas songs. So
isn't the original
that
like
is,
Jimmy Fallon or is that
it's Horatio Sands?
Okay, Horatio
Sands, Jimmy Fallon.
Who's the guy?
Chris Kattan and Tracy Morgan are the original.
Really makes it, man.
I'll put the link to the video and then also the song
So
obviously
good.
will be in the playlist as well for the show notes. So I wish it was Christmas today. All right, Casey, last round. Give us your next one.
Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. Oh, that was really bad. Don't do that. It's it's NSYNC's Happy Holidays.
Wow.
And happy holidays. Oh. You know what I'm singing? Yeah, there you go.
I do now. Wonderful.
I had to throw some boy band in there, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's Christmas. Of course you did. All right, Raji.
Okay, I have two tied for number 3. I love them both equally, so I'm not gonna sing them. Put them out there. Run DMC's "Christmas in Hollis" is a great one, and the Dropkick Murphys.
Ooh,
the Dropkick Murphys. The Season's Upon Us. Hilarious song. It will become your favorite Christmas song.
I like that. I mean, I really like Christmas in Hollis. That's one of my favorites as well. There's one that. Speaking of hip hop Christmas songs, there's one of my honorable mentions that I just love it is Snoop Dogg and Nate Dogg. They do this song called "Santa's Coming to the Ghetto," and
it's so good.
as a chill '90s hip hop fan. I mean, that's one of my favorites. All right, those are good ones.
I'm
Alan,
going instrumental again, and "Waltz of the Flowers," Tchaikovsky. It's like when you think of the Nutcracker play or Nutcracker movie. Anyway, I'm not gonna sing the instrumental portion, but the reason I love that song and it seriously evokes Christmas for me is I played the Mouse King or the Rat King in the school play in elementary school, and that song came on right before I entered the stage, and the little flowers were dancing, and then I got to come on, and I was told I was the best Mouse King of all time by my teacher, and I 100% believed her. So, and I still do.
I like it. Can we put that as a moniker on the website? Alan, the Mouse King
yeah.
O'Brien.
I second that.
You know what? I'm fine with that. I'm good.
And
I feel...
Casey the yardstick.
The keeper of the yardstick.
Always measuring honey.
Waltz of Flowers. It's super good.
That's awesome. All right, Bonnie, your final entry into the playlist.
I love the carol "What Child Is This?" I think it's just a beautiful song to sing to any child. So I think it's a story about Mary and her child. No men in that carol anywhere except baby Jesus, but
just a man-child and his mom. So just called
that just ruined everything. All you know, that reminds me of the medieval paintings that painted baby Jesus as a fully grown man, which is like, I don't know. Anyway, thanks, Jeff, for ruining that beautiful picture for me.
You're welcome.
For us.
It's my Christmas present to you. All right. And my final entry is, I'm not going to sing this one either, but there's this series of compilation albums that came out in like the late 90s. I think they even bled into the early 2000s, but they're called A Very Special Christmas. And on the third version of this, there's the title of the song is simply Christmas, and it's by Blues Traveler. And I love this song. This is like, in terms of favorite, this is my favorite Christmas song. Like, not just this year, but like, this is my favorite Christmas song. And it's really wonderful. So I encourage you all to check that out, and that will obviously be in the playlist. So, before we close out, any honorable mentions people want to mention? Just
everything on the new Young Messiah.
The new Young Messiah.
No, that's 90s. That's definitely
very much. But hey, it's who we are. It's who we are.
Right.
I think it's a good list. I like some of these, old nostalgic songs, and hopefully you're discovering some new songs, and in the midst of it, just having experience. So we will craft this playlist. We'll put it in the show notes. Check it out, and it'll be a Spotify playlist. Just to remind everyone, that's kind of where our playlists lay. And we'll also put a link to other playlists that we've done in the past. And if you want to, email us. And when we come back from our break, if you have other themes or emotions that you'd like us to do a playlist segment on, let us know, because I don't know about the rest of everyone, but this is probably my favorite segment right now because it gives me something to remember everyone by. All right. Well, that will do it for us this week. Like I mentioned in our last section of the podcast, if you enjoy the show and you would like to continue and partner in the work that we're doing, please consider donating to our PayPal link at irenicast.com/PayPal. You can also support the show just by simply making sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're listening on, and leave a rating and review if it allows it as well. So for this year, I'm Jeff.
It's your boy, Alan.
I'm Bonnie.
I'm Casey.
And this is Rajiv.
Thank you for joining the conversation.
And happy holidays.